and sentenced them to death. The ruling was upheld by the Delhi High Court the same year. 5 years went on as the convicts tried to exhaust all legal options. And in 2019, they moved the Supreme Court through the Legal Services Panel. On Monday, the Apex Court ordered the acquittal of the 3 convicts, ruling that the prosecution has been unable to make a watertight case and prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The parents of the victim have said that they have lost all hope in the judicial system of the country. The order is a body blow in the fight to convict rapists and once again exposes the daunting challenges within our legal system. So let's take you through what the top court has observed. The Supreme Court said that the prosecution failed to prove charges beyond a reasonable doubt, which is essential, that you have to prove charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Courts can't convict on the basis of moral conviction. The Apex Court said that there are several glaring lapses which have been found during the course of the trial. Witnesses examined by prosecution were not cross-examined, is what the Supreme Court has said as one of its reasoning. The identity of the accused was not fully established. No test identification parade was conducted. No witness identification the accused during the deposition. So no witness in fact identified the accused during deposition. Recovery of hair samples from the body is highly doubtful, is what the Supreme Court has said. So raising several questions on the nature of investigation, on the nature of trial as well. And body was lying in an open field for 3 days and 3 nights. The courts, which is the trial court and the High Court, did not examine the underlying basis of DNA reports. There was no examination if forensic techniques were reliably applied. Time and again, we scrutinize the legal system when such horrors come to light. But has this case revealed the loopholes in the system even after conviction? Has it shown the inability of the system to make watertight cases? But the bigger question is, did no rape and murder happen? That is what is finally the question before the family, which has been taking this long battle, first at the trial court, then at the High Court, and finally they got no justice at the Apex Court. Joining me on the show, Kiran Negi's parents, we have Yogita Bhayana, activist, Asha Devi, Nirbhaya's mother, Seema Samriddhi is also the advocate of the Supreme Court and someone who has fought Nirbhaya's case. Ellen Rao is former DCP of Delhi. मैं सबसे पहले आपके पास आऊंगी किरण नेगी के जो माता पिता हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं. जब आपको ये पता चला कि उच्च न्यायालय ने इन लोगों को बरी कर दिया है, तो आपको क्या विश्वास है कभी भी इंसाफ मिलेगा?
हाँ जी, अब हमारे साथ आप लोग जुड़ गए, जनता जुड़ गई, तो आपका सहयोग रहा तो हमें इंसाफ जरूर मिलेगा. अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट से तो हमने ना उम्मीद कर दिया था, पर अब आप लोगों का साथ है तो उम्मीद की किरण जाग गई है.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो उनको बरी किया, क्या उनके जो वकील हैं, जो आपके वकील थे, उन्होंने क्या उम्मीद दिलाई थी आपको? ट्रायल कोर्ट ने और हाई कोर्ट ने साफ तौर पे कहा था कि उसके बाद से ये कॉन्विक्ट्स हैं, जेल में रहे हैं, और अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट से आपको इंसाफ नहीं मिला है.
हाँ जी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट से हमें अभी जो है कि पूरा उम्मीद था कि मतलब जो है हमें इंसाफ मिलेगा और मुलजिमों को फांसी होगी, जबकि लोअर कोर्ट से हाई कोर्ट से उनको फांसी का ऑर्डर तय पक्का हो गया था. और सुप्रीम कोर्ट में 7 साल एक्स्ट्रा हो गए. मतलब 2014 में हाई कोर्ट का डिसीजन आने के बाद सुप्रीम कोर्ट में फैल गई है, तो जो भी इन 7 सालों में जो भी कमी थी वो नहीं निकली, और एक दिन में जो कमी निकल गई, और एक ही दिन में वो कमी निकलने के बाद उसी में जो है अपना ऑर्डर आउट कर दिया कि जो मुलजिम है उनको बरी कर दिया जाता है, जिनको फांसी का ऑर्डर हो चुका है लोअर कोर्ट से, हाई कोर्ट से। तो ये तो कोई मतलब न्याय नहीं है, ये तो अन्याय है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। सीमा, you know, this incident, this gruesome rape and murder happened a year after Nirbhaya. It's been a long battle for the parents, and they are saying that all it took was just one day in the Supreme Court, and they realized that the entire investigation was bad in law. The question is that the trial court and the high court did accept the findings of a bad investigation. Seema?
Yes, yes. एक्चुअली मैम, अगर इसमें जो भी ओपिनियन है, जो व्यूज़ हैं या जो जजमेंट सुप्रीम कोर्ट का प्रोनाउंस किया गया है, और इन तीनों को जब एक्विटल किया गया तो उन्होंने 2-3 बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ें जो हैं कि ट्रायल कोर्ट को एम्पायर बता रहे हैं। तो एक सबसे बड़ा क्वेश्चन मार्क ये है, क्या हमारे कंट्री में जो सेशन कोर्ट प्रोनाउंस करते हैं जजमेंट या जो अवॉर्डेड करते हैं डेथ पेनाल्टी से, वो इतना असंवेदनशील होकर के, इतना निष्क्रिय होकर के, या फिर क्या वो उन सारे फैक्ट को नहीं कंसीडर करते हैं? इसमें डीएनए सैंपल मैच कर रहा है, सीडीआर रिपोर्ट मैच कर रही है, लेकिन डेथ पेनल्टी के मैटर में क्या होता है मैम, क्योंकि जो ये डेथ पेनल्टी के मैटर्स हैं, इसमें मर्डर और गैंग रेप में इस तरीके से पनिशमेंट किया जाता है, सजा से अवॉर्डेड किया जाता है। तो यहाँ पर जो डिसीज पर्सन है वो तो अपना स्टेटमेंट नहीं दे सकती है। तो जो सर्कमस्टांशियल एविडेंस होते हैं, जो कंक्रीट एविडेंस होते हैं, जिसमें डीएनए सैंपल हो गया, सीडीआर लोकेशन हो गई, ये सारी चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती हैं मैम। इसमें इस सारी चीजों को कंसीडर किया सेशन कोर्ट ने, लेकिन अगर डिफेंस का लॉयर क्रॉस नहीं कर रहा है बार बार उनको नोटिस करने के बाद, तो ये ग्राउंड उनको सफिशिएंट दिया गया, नहीं किया। हाई कोर्ट इसमें पुष्टि कर रहा है, एक एक चीज पर अगेन एग्जामिन कर रहा है। उसके बाद डेथ पेनाल्टी की पुष्टि की गई। माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय में जब ये मैटर चल रहा है एसएलपी में, तो मेरा ये मानना था मैम कि अगर टेक्निकल ग्राउंड पर भी इसमें बेनिफिट अगर आपको एक्यूज्ड को देना था, तो आपके पास एक अथॉरिटी थी कि आप क्यों ना री इन्वेस्टिगेशन करवा लेते अगेन। तो ये भी हो सकता था, लेकिन बरी कर दिया गया है।
Yes, that is where the bigger concern is. Yes, that is where the bigger concern is. Yogita, since you are helping the family fight for justice, the holes in the investigation that have been pointed out by the Supreme Court judgment should have ideally been caught by the trial court. The trial court and the high court made a judgment which is clearly bad in law right now. But the larger question is that the family has lost hope of justice.
See, whatever it is, I mean, there is no justification for what has happened actually 3 days ago. They are out now. They are out yesterday. 2 of them are out. I don't know on which grounds, you know, I have been meeting lawyers since the day this judgment has come, and they have said that this particular 40-page thing is, I mean, it's a piece of crap. I'm so sorry to say it has come from Supreme Court, but honestly, I don't know what made him write all this kind of, the circumstantial evidence or all those things which he has mentioned. I've been receiving calls from experts. I think Session Court has done a good job. High Court endorsed it. And Supreme Court, it took them 7 years to say that, oh, this lower court was rubbish. I mean, they are questioning their own system. They are questioning their own authorities, their own police. If you had a doubt, send them for re-investigation as... Yes,
Elindra, you know that if the investigative process is bodged up, if there is insufficient evidence, despite 2 courts of India, the trial court and the high court ordering conviction, then अगर ये bad in law है और investigation में problem है, instead of giving them bail
Who's
or
suffering
saying
now?
yes,
Who's suffering?
instead of
These
acquitting
guys are
them,
out.
the
They are
right thing of
history cheaters.
the right
They are
direction
criminals.
should have been, perhaps, Ellen Rao, reinvestigation. Do you think the Supreme Court should have ordered reinvestigation rather than acquittal? Ellen Rao.
At this stage, I don't think so. Be reinvestigation. Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, hello.
Asha Devi.
Yes, yes. Hello.
आशा देवी, आप किरण नेगी जी के पेरेंट्स को क्या बोलेंगी?
हेलो,
उनको लग रहा है अन्याय हुआ है और ये बिल्कुल अन्याय है।
जी
आप किरण नेगी के माँ बाप हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, आप उनको क्या बोलेंगी? आपने भी एक लंबी लड़ाई लड़ी है, लेकिन आपको इंसाफ मिला। यहाँ पर इंसाफ नहीं है और इंसाफ की उम्मीद भी अब नहीं है।
देखिए, ये मत कहिए कि इंसाफ की उम्मीद नहीं है, क्योंकि हम बैठेंगे नहीं। हम उनके माँ बाप के संपर्क में हैं, योग्यता जी है, हम बैठेंगे नहीं। हम जो भी हमारे हक में है, रिव्यू क्यूरी जो भी है, हम डालेंगे। लेकिन बात न्याय अन्याय की है, तो न्याय तो की बात ही क्या करें, लेकिन जो ये फैसला आया है, इस एक फैसले ने लोअर कोर्ट, हाई कोर्ट, पूरा समाज और उस माँ बाप का 11 साल का संघर्ष एक झटके में खत्म कर दिया। उस माँ बाप का ही नहीं, उस बच्ची को ही नहीं, पूरे देश के महिलाओं को और बच्चियों को ये फैसला आहत करता है। और जाते जाते जज साहब ने जो निर्भया के बाद कानून बने, जो सुधार हुए, निर्भया को इंसाफ मिला, तो एक समाज को, पूरे देश को एक उम्मीद जगी थी, हम लोगों को भी जगी थी कि नहीं, अब हमारे देश में महिलाओं के साथ इंसाफ होगा, न्याय मिलेगा, शायद हमारी बच्चियां एक न एक दिन सुरक्षित होंगी। लेकिन इस फैसले ने वो सारी उम्मीदें खत्म कर दी। जाते जाते जज साहब ने महिलाओं के इंसाफ के राह में कांटे बो के गए। यही नहीं, उन्होंने ये दर्शा के गया, ये दिखाए मुजरिमों का सपोर्ट करके और फैसला को फैसला दे करके, रिहाई करके, कि आप बच्चियों के साथ रेप करो, बलात्कार करो और उनको खत्म कर दो और जेल में आओ, हम आपको बाइज्जत बरी कर देंगे। तो कहने का मतलब ये है कि जो भी ये फैसला था, जो भी ये केस 10 साल चली, लोअर कोर्ट में चली, हाई कोर्ट में चली, कई बार हमको देखने को मिलता है, हम लोग देखते हैं कि अगर सीधे कोई केस लेके सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जाता है तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहता है कि नहीं, आप पहले हाई कोर्ट में जाइए।
You're right that this entire process was followed. The trial court, the high court and all levels, सारे लेवल पे ये गए हैं। Ellen Rao, the trial court।
एक मिनट जी। तो अगर ये फैसला जज साहब को लगा कि नहीं, पुलिस ने काम नहीं करे, कोर्ट ने काम नहीं किया, तो उन्होंने उनको रिहाई के बदले उनको सम्मन क्यों नहीं किया, उनको नोटिस क्यों नहीं किया, सरकार से जवाब क्यों नहीं मांगा कि नहीं, इसमें जांच नहीं हुई है, इसमें पर्याप्त सबूत नहीं है।
नहीं, valid point, absolutely valid point. Ellen Rao, if the Supreme Court says that the entire, investigation was faulty, the evidence was not right, there were several questions that have been raised on multiple levels, my question then is, then the entire process should be questioned rather than acquittal. The trial court accepted the investigation and awarded capital punishment to the accused in 2014. The accused appealed in the High Court, which agreed with the trial court and confirmed death penalty. And then only they approached the Supreme Court in 2015.
Yes, ma'am. It could have been done because in so many other cases also in the past, that when there was some glaring mistake on the part of during trial or during the investigation, that the superior courts has directed that it should be reinvestigated or retried, or on the points when in this case I think so in this case there is some major glaring mistake is detected by Honorable Supreme Court, that accused were not given proper chances to cross-examine the witnesses. This is I think this is the main reason. Then in that case, that court should have remanded this entire case to the trial court again, and that opportunity of the cross-examination of the witnesses could have been done.
Exactly. So it should have been if the Supreme Court finds problem in the investigation of the trial court, the judgment of the High Court, then the judges of those courts should have been pulled up, and also the police, the cops should have been held responsible, Yogita Bhayana, rather than acquittal. Because this judgment, if anything, is a testimony to our broken criminal justice system, where there are procedural lapses by the police and also by prosecution, and which has ensured that the accused have been given acquittal in this case.
See, technically, legally, they are questioning some authorities or the other.
Yes.
Whosoever it is I don't know how to even say that, but somebody is at fault. Somebody has failed this daughter. So
Yes.
they should find out who's that person, who's that agency who has failed their daughter. Find out the right culprits then, because these goons are out since yesterday. And who will be responsible if they find another prey, and if they kill, they rape? They are history cheaters. They are known to be criminals. It's not their first case. They had confessed. There are a lot of loopholes. Whosoever is at fault, I think Supreme Court should have found the solution. They have really let us down. Trust me, this case is the biggest bloat in the history of this country, where they have just set them free. They could have raised questions. They could have asked things. We wouldn't have mind. We waited 7 years, and they have written in their judgment that some delay tactic or something like that. You bloody took 7 years, and then what you have done? I'm so sorry. I'm outraged, and I know I should not be using such language for the apex.
Seema, will you be also making an effort for justice in this case now? Because if you look at the reasons that have been given for acquittal of the accused, it's about lapses at multiple levels. But the larger question is that incident happened. She was raped. Autopsy reports have confirmed it. If there are mistakes at the trial level, if there are mistakes and loopholes at the investigation level, then that should be fixed rather than saying that they are not guilty. An acquittal means that they are not guilty.
बर्मा कमेटी 2013 में जब रिकमेंड की गई कि जब भी कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन में अगर लूप होल बचता है या प्रॉपर वे में इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं करते हैं ऑफिसर्स, तो उनके ऊपर भी चार्ज किया जा सकता है, उनका भी कन्विक्शन हो सकता है। मैम, इस सारे प्रोसेस में अगर ये नेग्लिजेंसी सिस्टम की है, तो फिर सिस्टम को क्यों नहीं पनिश किया जाएगा, जो भी इसमें अथॉरिटी थी जिनके लेवल से नेग्लिजेंसी हुई? क्योंकि ये मैटर देश की बेटियों की 49% आबादी की उनकी सेफ्टी, सिक्योरिटी, डिग्निटी की बात है। अगर आज किरण नेगी के फादर यहां पर कह रहे हैं एक झटके में सारा कुछ खत्म हो गया, आफ्टर निर्भया केस बर्मा कमेटी की रिकमेंडेशन सीपीसी, सीआरपीसी, आईपीसी, जुवेनाइल एक्ट में बहुत सारे अमेंडमेंट किए गए, बट अगर ग्रास रूट लेवल पे बात करें 30% कन्विक्शन रेट है, तो जो 70% पीपल हैं जो कि क्रिमिनल हैं, जो एक्यूज हैं, वो हमारी सोसाइटी के बीच फ्री मूव कर रहे हैं। और अगेन वो ये मैसेज दे रहे हैं कि हमारा पुलिस सिस्टम, हमारी जुडिशरी हमारा कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ सकती, इसलिए क्राइम भी नहीं रुक रहा है और सेम नेचर के क्राइम हो रहे, गैंग रेप एंड मर्डर के क्राइम हो रहे। अगर मैं हाथरस केस की बात करूं मैम, पूरे देश ने देखा, पहले उसमें पुलिस ने इन्वेस्टिगेशन किया, देन आफ्टर एसआईटी, देन आफ्टर सीबीआई ने उसको इन्वेस्टिगेशन किया। इन सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जब ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जब ये मैटर सुना जा रहा है, तो कोर्ट के पास, कोर्ट हमारी कंपिटेंट अथॉरिटी है, वो डायरेक्शन दे सकते थे, रीट्रायल हो सकता था, इसमें रीइन्वेस्टिगेशन हो सकता था। एक्विटल करने के बाद अगेन से उन सारे फैक्ट को अगर चेक किया जाएगा, मैम एक और बात 10 इयर्स ऑलरेडी हो चुका है,
10 साल,
और करीब 4-5 साल इसमें और फिर से लगने वाले हैं। जितना मैं
10 साल गुजर गए किरण नेगी के पेरेंट्स
जो स्लो मोशन को समझ रहे हैं।
लेट्स लिसन फ्रॉम देम एंड आई एम गिविंग देम द फाइनल वर्ड। 10 साल गुजर गए और जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट बोलता है कि एक्विटल होता है, बरी करते हैं, आपने कहा कि सारी मेहनत आपकी, इतने लंबा समय गुजर गया इंसाफ की उम्मीद के लिए। क्या बोलेंगे अब आप? अब क्या करेंगे? फिर से कोशिश करेंगे कि इंसाफ मिले?
जी, हम इंसाफ के लिए अभी भी पूरा प्रयास कर रहे हैं और हमें इंसाफ मिलना चाहिए। और ये ऐसा अगर चलने लग जाए कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जो है कि वो मुलजिमों को जिनको फांसी का ऑर्डर हो चुका है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट उनको एक झटके में बरी कर देता है, तो कह रहे हैं बढ़ेंगे, मुलजिम बढ़ेंगे, वो उनके हौसले बुलंद हो जाएंगे कि हमें तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने फांसी के ऑर्डर होने के बावजूद भी हमें बरी कर दिया गया है। और ये बहन बेटियों के लिए बहुत बड़ा झटका है, देश के लिए बहुत बड़ा झटका है।
बिल्कुल, ये देश के लिए बहुत बड़ा झटका है। आशा देवी जी, जब इंसिडेंट ऑफ रेप होता है, जस्टिस की गुहार लगती है, मोमबत्ती लेकर के बहुत सारे एक्टिविस्ट आकर के कोशिश करते हैं कि इंसाफ मिले। जब निर्भया कांड हुआ उसके बाद जस्टिस वर्मा कमिटी सेटअप हुई, लॉज बने। अगर वो लॉ बनाने वाले इंसाफ नहीं दे पाएंगे जिस तरह से किरण नेगी के साथ हुआ, तो फिर आगे इंसाफ कभी मिलेगा क्या?
जी बिल्कुल नहीं मिलेगा। हमारी बच्चियों के साथ और बुरे तरह से रेप बलात्कार होंगे, क्योंकि इस फैसले ने रास्ता दिखा दिया कि आप रेप करो, बलात्कार करो, उनको खत्म कर दो। प्रूफ नहीं मिलेगा तो आपको कोई सजा नहीं दे सकता। तो हमारा कहने का मतलब है कि हम इस फैसले का विरोध करते हैं। हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट का विरोध बिल्कुल नहीं करते, क्योंकि एक आदमी के फैसले से, एक जज साहब के फैसले से सब कुछ खत्म नहीं हो जाता। दुनिया सुप्रीम कोर्ट पे भरोसा करती है, हम भी करते हैं, सब लोग करते हैं। हमें दूसरा कोई चारा नहीं है कि हम उम्मीद ना करें। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट से हमें अभी भी उम्मीद है कि इंसाफ मिलेगा,
that justice delayed, justice denied also in this case. Finally, there is the better sense prevails and there is retrial rather than acquittal. Acquittal has happened. People like Yogita Bhyana are leading the charge again, hoping that there will be a rethink and those who have been acquitted get the real punishment. They get the punishment that they deserve, and Kiran Negi gets justice. Her parents get justice. We are shifting. I would like to thank the guests on that panel. Shifting focus to debate 2, where the Congress finds itself in the middle of another controversy right ahead of the MCD elections in the national capital. The party's move to include 1984 riots-accused Jagdish Tytler in its committee for the Delhi municipal elections has sparked a political firestorm. The BJP has accused the Congress of rubbing salt in the wounds of the survivors and the families of the victims. This is not the first time Tytler has put the Congress on the back foot. The party has been criticized multiple times over the controversial politician's presence at its events, often in the front row. Tytler argues that the charges against him have not been proven, but the Congress has always lost in the battle of optics and has ended up dropping Tytler not just from the Union Cabinet but even candidate lists for elections. Has the Congress scored a self-goal again and only given more ammunition to the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party?
Tytler was a key conspirator of 1984. He was key member of the Rajiv Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi team who planned the complete episode of 1984 which happened in Punjab and later on in Delhi also. Sikhs will never forgive, will never forget.
समाज हमेशा सिख समाज के लिए जो है हमेशा कांग्रेस पार्टी ने जो है लड़ा है। उनके हक के लिए हमने जो है हमेशा जो है हमने सुनिश्चित किया कि जितने भी अगर आप जितने भी सिख समाज के जितने भी जो कानून बनाए थे उनके पक्ष में या उनके हित में हमेशा हमने देखा।
Jagdish Tytler is one of them, and his case is under trial in the Delhi High Court, and at this stage he is now made a member of the election committee of municipal corporation election. It is very unfortunate.
Let's do a quick recap of the case and the charges against Jagdish Tytler. Through the course of multiple investigations, these are the charges the witnesses have levelled against Congress leader Jagdish Tytler, that he was involved in attacks on Sikhs and their properties. He in fact led a mob that attacked the Gurudwara Singh Sahib. He incited a mob to burn the Gurudwara and murder Sikhs. That's what the eyewitnesses have said. He put pressure on cops to go slow, to stand down. This saga, remember, has been going on since 2005. Let me give you a timeline of this case. In 2005, the Nanavati Commission cited credible evidence against Jagdish Tytler. In the same year, he was removed as a minister from the Manmohan Singh cabinet because that was the UPA government then. In 2005 again, the CBI initiated a probe against Tytler, specifically looking into his role. In 2007, the CBI filed a closure report citing no evidence against Jagdish Tytler. And the court asked the CBI the same year to continue its investigation, continue to probe the role of Jagdish Tytler. In 2009, the CBI filed a second closure report citing no evidence against him. In 2009, a riot victim in fact then filed a petition against the CBI's closure report. In 2009, the same year, Tytler is named as a Lok Sabha polls candidate. But after the protests, he is dropped. In 2010, the court accepts the CBI's second closure report. In 2013, look at this, Karkadoma court orders a fresh probe into Jagdish Tytler's role. So there has been several back and forth in this case and his role in particular. Joining me now on the show, RP Singh, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Siddharth Sharma, Spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. We have Lokesh Jindal, Leader of the Congress, and Atma Singh Lubana, he's a 1984 riots victim. I'm going to begin with you, Lokesh. Isn't this political harakiri by your party?
Absolutely not. In fact, 3 times CBI has given clean chit to Mr. Tytler. And I've just gone through the entire Nanavati Commission report as well. The Nanavati Commission report, it remarked that very probably Jagdish Tytler could have been involved. So nowhere is there any form of a clear verdict given in this particular report. And secondly, talking about all forms of evidences like whatever the bayan was given by and then later Jasbir Singh, they have retracted from whatever statements they have given every now and then. And CBI, it has openly come up in 2015. It gave a statement that they cannot implicate innocent Jagdish Tytler in the 1984 case just to satisfy someone's ego. So the point is...
But the trial is underway, Lokesh. And if anything, if there is an embarrassment that happened just few years ago when he was named a member of a committee but the Congress had to drop him, why do you not think that the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP will make this a talking point, and all the Sikhs who have suffered during 1984, it will be like rubbing salt to their wounds?
Sadhvi Pragya is under trial for a terrorist act, but still she was made a member of parliament. Over here, Jagdish Tytler is just given a position within the party. And let me tell you, right now when you were telling the facts, in 2005, Jagdish Tytler himself resigned, taking the moral responsibility. And in 2009 also, a moral aspect was taken up by the Congress party and not given a ticket, unlike BJP, which gave a position of member of parliament to Sadhvi Pragya.
Okay, RP Singh.
problem is that just says that it could never happen. The latest by Mr. GPS Sidhu, one of the raw officers of that time, no Congress man, no Congress leader, neither Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi or Priyanka Vadra or any of the leaders have challenged that book. In that book, it categorically mentions there were two parts of operation, Operation 1 and Operation 2. Operation 1 was Operation Blue Star, which was decided much before Operation Blue Star happened, and Operation 2, which was planned much before the 1984 happened. Incidentally, Mrs. Gandhi died in between, but the plan was there. I mean, had Mrs. Gandhi not died, even then the plan would have been executed only to paint the minority as demon and to garner majority vote. First time in the Indian history that to garner majority vote, the most nationalist minority was being painted as demon. So this is the fact now. Can I did I interrupted you, please? Okay, I mean, and then this is, if there is hogwash, go and challenge this in the court. I'm quoting from Mr. G.B.S. Sidhu's book, and in that he categorically mentioned that the whole of this thing was planned under the observation of Mr. Sanjay Gandhi, and then followed by after his death, followed by Mr. Rajiv Gandhi.
Right now I'm looking at the Nanavati Commission report. Let me read out page number 181.
Hold your breath.
Do you want me to read out page number 181?
Mr. Jindal, hold your breath, please. Hold your breath. थोड़ा रुको ना यार, एक मिनट, आपको मैं रोका क्या, सुनने की शक्ति रखो.
हाँ, चलिए.
So and he categorically said that it was Rajiv Gandhi who pre-planned, and Rajiv Gandhi with Arun Nehru, Arun Singh, Kamal Nath, Tytler, they were all part of that team which was planning all this. And that's how the lists were prepared in advance. The powder was there ready in advance. Tires were all set ready in advance, and it was all planned in so minutely that nothing happened till the time President of India came. The first car which was attacked was of the President of India, Jagdish Tytler, and Tirochan Singh was sitting in that car. So that's what I'm saying. They can wash off, they can say what did 1984 never happened. The fact is, there is sting operation Mr. Tytler, where he is on record saying, yes, I was going around the city with Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. It's not me, it's Mr. Tytler who's saying so. I'll send you this thing. Where he is saying that I was going around the city with Mr. Gandhi, seeing how many shops in burned, what happened to what area. Now, this is the one reason. Give me another second. This is the one reason. That's why they keep bringing Tytler back again and again.
Yes.
Because Tytler, as per me, blackmailed Sonia Gandhi, saying that if you don't keep me in the mainstream, I'll expose you.
What rubbish is this, sir? I had a very high regard for you as an intellect, but what form of rubbish is this? Now, I'm reading Nanavati Commission report. It is page number 181. It clearly stated that it was suggested that Shri Rajiv Gandhi, it was suggested before that Shri Rajiv Gandhi had told one of his officials that Sikhs should be taught a lesson. But the Nanavati Commission finds no substance in that allegation. In fact, the Nanavati Commission went on to say that Rajiv Gandhi indeed became very active.
There is Jasbir Singh, there is Miss Sujeet Kaur, all of them, Surinder Singh, one of the eyewitnesses said, the mob, there are multiple eyewitnesses, how do you discount that? There is multiple eyewitnesses as well. Siddharth Sharma, yes, come in, Siddharth.
Yeah, Maria, just I'll finish this off in 75 seconds. I'm speaking blind, I don't have video, so I request you to give me a little bit of a margin. Politically, the situation today in Delhi is such that because of these kind of feats of mobsterism, Congress has become totally irrelevant in Delhi. And today, by bringing up Jagdish Tytler's name, what Congress is trying to do is trying to get relevance. If they cannot get it through good news, do something bad and get at least, even if you do something bad, you get it to news. So they are trying to just get some kind of footage, because otherwise this national channel like CNN, IBN would not have been discussing Congress with on national television at prime time. Be as it may, Mr. Jagdish Tytler has been indicted by the Nanavati Commission report, but the strange fact and the funny thing here is that since 1984 to 2022, nearly 4 decades, in the center as well as in the state of Delhi, both Congress and BJP have been in power. The BJP spokesperson just before me who was speaking, we spoke eruditely about the entire sequence of events, the calendar of events. Pray, the question here is that the people like Mr. Atma Ramji, I think he's on your television,
yes,
on this panel today,
yes,
who is one of the affected parties, is the victim. They would be asking why Congress and BJP, both of them, who have been in power in Delhi as well as in the center, having law and order as well as CBI under them, have not prosecuted Mr. Jagdish Tytler.
Yes.
That is the hypocrisy of Congress as well as BJP that is
I think it's the
exposed
liquor
to the
policy
people
of
of
Aam Aadmi
Delhi
Party
today.
saying.
The BJP is also,
You'll
by
respond?
bringing in Mr. Jagdish Tytler.
Yes. So you are
Congress
saying
is
that this is
also
an attempt by the
painting
Congress
BJP
for
in a very poor light.
relevance, because they have become
BJP
inconsequential in Delhi
Maria,
politics,
Maria,
and the BJP has
Maria,
failed.
BJP is also being shown in very poor
Okay,
light
so
by
you
doing
have
this.
raised questions
BJP
on
is
your
also
both
being shown in
political
very poor
opponents.
light.
Before I go back to the politics, I need to speak to Atma Ram ji. आत्मा सिंह जी, आपने सुना कि कांग्रेस पार्टी ने फिर से जगदीश टाइटलर का नाम लिया है, वो कुछ उनको रोल दे रही है पार्टी। तो जब 1984 का जो सिख एंटी सिख राइट्स थे, उसमें उनके आई विटनेसेस ने उनने उनका नाम लिया था, लेकिन उनका कहना है कि जब नानावती कमीशन ने उनको बरी किया है, कोर्ट्स ने उनको बरी किया है, तो इसलिए अगर कांग्रेस पार्टी उनको कोई रोल दे रही है तो दिक्कत नहीं होनी चाहिए। आप कैसे देखते हैं इसको?
देखो मैडम, ये बिल्कुल झूठ बोल रहे हैं कांग्रेसी। और नानावती कमीशन की रिपोर्ट के बाद 2005 में बाड़ा हिंदू राव थाने के अंदर टाइटलर के खिलाफ FIR दर्ज की गई। 2007 में कांग्रेस ने और CBI ने मिलकर एक षड्यंत्र रचा और झूठी क्लोजर रिपोर्ट कोर्ट में पेश की और इसको क्लीन चिट दी गई। जब हमारे को पता चला तो हमने जो इनके खिलाफ विटनेस थे उनका सबका नाम मैंने इनको CBI के यहाँ प्रदर्शन करके और उनके विटनेसेस के एड्रेस उनको दिए थे कि ये जसवीर सिंह, सतनाम सिंह, सुरेंद्र सिंह और अपने बादल साहब की भाई लखविंदर कौर, गुरचंद सिंह को जो मारा गया, उनके रिश्तेदार बेदी साहब, उनके परिवार, सब परिवारों ने उनकी गवाही दी है। आप किसी आदमी के पास इन्होंने गवाही लेने के लिए ये नहीं गए और घर बैठे ही CBI ने क्लोजर रिपोर्ट देके इसको क्लीन चिट करने की कोशिश की। जब हमने ये कोर्ट में पेश किए तो फिर कोर्ट की आंखें खुल गई कि वाकई ये CBI भी झूठ बोल रही है और ये सारे लोग झूठ बोल रहे हैं। आज तक जो क्लीन चिट दी गई थी वो कैंसिल की गई। आज भी कोर्ट के अंदर 23 दिसंबर 2022 को राउज एवेन्यू कोर्ट में ट्रायल इसकी चल रही है और उसमें कोर्ट ने CBI को डायरेक्शन दी है कि 164 के बयान जो हैं, ये जो विटनेस हैं उनके 164 के बयान कोर्ट में दर्ज कराए जाए और टाइटलर के खिलाफ इनको अरेस्ट करके इनको जेल में डाला जाए। लेकिन CBI ने उसको अभी तक
आपने
पेंडिंग में
CBI के
रखा
रोल
हुआ
पे
है
सवाल उठाया
और
है।
हर बार तारीख कोर्ट जो है,
आपने CBI के रोल पे सवाल उठाया है RP सिंह?
हाँ, जज इनको फटकार लगाती है लेकिन वो नहीं कर रहे हैं। तो ये बिल्कुल सरासर झूठ बोल रहे हैं। टाइटलर के खिलाफ 3 विटनेसों का अभी भी कोर्ट में पेंडिंग केस है जिनकी सुनवाई चल रही है। एक और इसमें मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि अभिषेक वर्मा जो आई विटनेस है और उसने कहा था कि मैंने टाइटलर को यह कहते सुना कि मेरे को अब बहुत जल्द क्लीन चिट मिल जाएगी क्योंकि मनमोहन सिंह से मेरी बात हो गई है। मनमोहन सिंह ने आश्वासन दिया है कि आपको CBI क्लीन चिट देगी और वो फार्म हाउस हरियाणा में फार्म हाउस के
RP सिंह
उन्होंने कहा था। और टाइटलर ने ये भी कहा था मैडम जी कि राजीव गांधी खुद 1-2 तारीख को वो अपनी कार में घूम के जायजा ले रहा था और मैं भी उनके साथ था। मैंने 1 तारीख को सुबह 7:30 बजे पुलमंगस गुरुद्वारे के सामने जब इनकी कार आई तो उन्होंने रोक के इशारा किया कि ये पुलबंगस का गुरुद्वारा है, साथ में स्कूल है, स्कूल में सभी लोग धर्म के लोगों के बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, इसको कुछ नहीं होना चाहिए और गुरुद्वारे को आग लगा दो और जितने भी ग्रंथी रागी जो भी सरदार हैं उनको मार दो। वहाँ पे 3 आदमियों को बादल सिंह,
All right. I have just enough time for 30 seconds for RP Singh and final words to locate. Yes. Okay. RP Singh.
Maria, I have been personally following up all these cases, and because we have followed up these cases in the court and the government of India has been seriously taking up these cases, Sajjan Kumar is behind bar and others have been now being sentenced also. But yes, it's a matter of time that Tytler has to also be taken to task. But fact is that a lot of witnesses have died and a lot of evidence has been demolished or has been done away with by all these period 30 years of Congress rule. But yes, we need to pursue this, and I'm personally assuring that we will pursue this.
Okay. Lokesh, you know, this is embarrassing for the Congress party, and it comes up every time, and there is an action that is taken because you realize that there are eyewitnesses, people like Atma Singh have been following this case for long, and still if they don't get justice, then what will the Congress party tell Sikhs?
If you're talking about the veracity of the legality as well as the claims of Atma Singh, the entire nation knows. You can just Google his out. His all misdeeds are there online. Secondly, when you're talking about all other evidences that were gathered, whether it is Surinder Singh, the Granthi, or the Jasbir Singh, on whose evidence is being taken into record by CBI, okay, they have retracted from their statements 5 times.
Okay.
So 3 times the CBI has given a clean chit. In fact, all the affidavits that have been
RP
filed,
Singh, Siddharth Sharma and Atma Singh, thank you so much for joining us. We are slipping into a short break. After that, we decode the pulse of the voter in battleground Himachal Pradesh with a focus on the youth factor, the first-time voters. That special report when I return. Stay with us.
Who's underwater. So I think it won't give him pause necessarily, because he only does what he thinks is in his self-interest. And he likes the attention, he likes the money, he likes the power and influence it gives him. But I do hope, for the sake of American democracy, that it inspires more Republicans to stand up and run for president if they feel that Donald Trump's not the right path forward. Not only run themselves, but also more influential Republicans standing up and supporting those candidates, as opposed to being afraid of Donald Trump, which many of them have been, which have led them to sort of acquiesce to his election lies to date, with destructive impact on American democracy and the Republican Party, as we saw from these elections.
Yeah, I guess the first test would be the election of the Speaker, the House Majority Leader, and so on. In the U.S. House of Representatives. For the moment, though, thank you very much, John Avlon, for joining us. Senior political analyst John Avlon, who's joining us live from New York. Thanks very much, John, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Let's start with the key reasons behind what looks like an exceptionally tight race. Yes, the Republicans will certainly take back control of the House, but in the Senate, it is still up for grabs. And like I said earlier on, at this given point of time, it looks likelier that the Democrats might retain control of the Senate and not so much the Republicans, despite, the war, the soaring prices of gas and groceries. How is it that this has not become a red wave, and how do the Democrats manage to hold off what could have been a red wave?
That's the question Republicans are asking themselves today, because all expectations in Washington and much of the public polling seem to indicate that traditional red wave. And what I mean by traditional is American midterm elections have a clear pattern in recent years. The opposition party to the president who controls the White House tends to gain significantly in the midterm elections, as independent voters in particular try to create some balance between the parties in Washington. One statistic that stood out to me is opposition parties have won an average of 46 House seats when the president is below 50% approval. That's since 1982, when Ronald Reagan was president. Nothing like that is going to happen in this midterm election. Instead, a lot of the gains that Republicans expected to make evaporated. Now, the Senate still too close to call, and indeed polls show this would be too close to call. Democrats always had a hope they would hold on to it, but Republicans assumed there would be a significant swing in the House races to their favor. That has not materialized. And I think a big part of the reason is that while the issues of inflation are on people's minds and perceptions of rising crime, the candidates Republicans put forward at Donald Trump's request in many cases, election-denying candidates, seemed simply too extreme. And so the argument that democracy was itself on the ballot does seem to have resonated. It's always the economy stupid, but this year it's the extremism stupid.
I just want to go back to a point that you made, that historically, midterm elections have always been sort of against the incumbent president in the White House, whichever party he or she may belong to, let's go back in time. In 1994, when Bill Clinton lost his first midterms, the Democrats lost something like 53 House seats. Obama, after the historic election in 2008, in 2010 in the Tea Party election, he lost 63 House seats.
A high-pitched basketball match is on at Shimla's Centre for Excellence Government College. Shubham, a third-year history student, and his friends are clear about the issues that will decide their vote. What are the issues that will decide your vote this time?
I guess I will vote for choose the leader basically. The leader must be important because the parties are corrupted almost every time. In some states, few are good and few are very bad. So I guess I will choose the leader.
So you'll go for the face?
Yes, I will go for the face, and the previous work is not much appreciable in the Himachal Pradesh. So, and I am not opposing any kind of party, but for sure I will vote for the face.
You'll vote for the face. Anybody voting for the party, not the face? Or face and party, दोनों factors important हैं?
फेस एंड पार्टी दोनों इम्पोर्टेंट है. फॉर एग्जांपल मैं बीजेपी जो है राष्ट्रवादी विचारधारा से बहुत प्रभावित हूँ. जो आजकल के जो हमारे जो देश है उसके परिप्रेक्ष्य में हमारे देश को नरेंद्र मोदी की बहुत आवश्यकता है देश को आगे लाने के लिए. हमारे जो है फॉरेन के जितने भी मुद्दे हैं तो हमारे नरेंद्र मोदी ने हमारे देश का जो छवि को बहुत ऊंचा किया है, तो उनसे बहुत प्रभावित हूँ. तो नरेंद्र मोदी के नेतृत्व में सरकार बननी चाहिए और हिमाचल में जयराम जी की सरकार बननी चाहिए.
जयराम ठाकुर,
इस बार रिवाज बदलेगा.
नहीं जी,
इस बार सरकार नहीं रिवाज बदलेगा.
ये बीजेपी का नारा है.
बीजेपी का नारा है, लेकिन इन्होंने अच्छा काम किया है. देखो एम्स हमें मिला है ना जी, IIM, IIIT मंडी और ऐसे बहुत सारे विकास के कार्य हुए हैं. हालांकि 2 साल में कोरोना ने वेस्ट किया जो है, लेकिन फिर भी सरकार ने एज कम्पेयर टू अदर गवर्नमेंट बहुत अच्छा काम किया है.
चुनावों के समय जो जुमलेबाजी होती है वो सारी बंद होनी चाहिए. जब चुनाव आते हैं तभी सारी चीज़ें लगती हैं. महिलाओं का किराया अदा किया जाता है, बिजली बिल मतलब जो कुछ हद तक जो होता है वो नहीं देना पड़ता है. हर सरकार में यही होता है, ये पर्टिकुलर गवर्नमेंट नहीं है. ये सब नहीं होना चाहिए. इस तरह से फ्री
सिंसियरिटी दिखाना चाहिए सरकार को.
यस, मैं इनके साथ एग्री करूंगा इनके साथ. जब भी वोटिंग की दौर आता है तभी मैं सब कुछ करने लगते हैं, सड़कों को वो करने लगते हैं डेवलपमेंट. एंड जो हमारी उचित मूल्य की दुकान है उसमें 3 मंथ्स का राशन इकट्ठा देने लगते हैं जो नहीं ले रहे पहले से, और टाइम पे नहीं देते. ओनली 1 मंथ का जो मंथ में आप ले रहे हैं.
फॉर द यूथ, जैसे आप लोग नौजवान हैं, आम आदमी पार्टी कोई फैक्टर है? नई पार्टी है, आपको लगता है कुछ नया बात करेगी?
यहाँ पे मैम हिमाचल में उसके लिए फेस नहीं है, तो इसके लिए अब उस पे इतना वो नहीं बनेगा, कमांड नहीं होगी ज़्यादा. तो अगर ऐसा कोई फेस हो कि जो हमारे को पता हो और हमारे से ज़्यादा मतलब क्लोज हो.
What are the issues that concern you as a youth in Shimla that I'm talking to you right now? What are the major issues on your mind? क्या सबसे ज़्यादा bother करता है?
I would probably go with the drugs kind of things.
Drugs?
Yeah, they are quite popular in hilly areas, and they are. People will deny that there is no such thing. But there is. We have to admit that. Only then we can improve when we admit it.
I want to understand when you will go to cast your vote, किस मुद्दों पे वोट दोगे?
पहले तो ये देखा जाएगा कि सरकार आगे जाके काम करना अच्छा करेगी, तब हम वो सोचेंगे उसके बारे में. पहले की और जो उन्होंने पास्ट में जो करा है उसको देख के जो उन्होंने करा है, और जो पेंडिंग है अगर जो अभी पूरा कर सकते हैं, यानी कि आगे आने के बाद करेंगे.
हमारे कल्चर चला है फ्री बीज का, है ना जी. जो फ्री की रेवड़ियाँ हैं सबसे पहले वो बंद होनी चाहिए. कांग्रेस ने बोला है कि महिलाओं को 1500 रुपए देंगे वो सभी महिलाओं को. तो कैसे देंगे? वो पहले ही हमारा हिमाचल कर्ज में डूबा हुआ है ना जी. 90% जो है नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हिमाचल को जो है विशेष राज्य का दर्जा दे दिया है. 90% वो पैसा देते हैं, 10% हमारी सरकार लगाती है. लेकिन जो अब कांग्रेस की सरकार आएगी, जैसे कांग्रेस ने बोला है 1500 रुपए देगी, तो कहाँ से देगी वो?
The students, most of whom will be stepping out into the job market soon, are clear that entrepreneurship is the way forward. Is jobs an issue for you? Is that a big concern?
Yes, ma'am. I think, ma'am, employment is a huge crisis in this world. Maybe in this India or maybe in this world. So I think, ma'am, government is not working on the employment. So they should see this factor, ma'am. So if they change this, ma'am, they will give employment, then definitely I think that government will win.
Youth must be inspired to employ other person and give them opportunity.
So you're talking about startups?
Yes, I will appreciate Narendra Modi ji for that step they took toward transforming India in IT sector and technology ways.
जो यूथ हैं वो पढ़ने के बाद, ग्रेजुएशन करने के बाद नौकरी ढूंढने के लिए अपने स्टेट को उनको छोड़ करके जाना पड़ता है, तो क्या ये फैक्टर है या फिर आप यहीं पर नौकरी ढूंढने की कोशिश करेंगे?
अगर नौकरी मिलती है तो यहीं पे कर देंगे, वरना अगर नहीं मिलती है तो फिर बाहर ही जाना पड़ता है, क्योंकि यूथ बहुत है यहाँ पे और नौकरियाँ बहुत कम मिलती है, जैसे कि पोस्टें बहुत कम होती है उसमें, तो फिर ऐसा तो है नहीं कि सबको मिल सके.
Of the total 55 lakh eligible voters across 68 assembly seats in Himachal, there are 1.86 lakh first-time voters. 19-year-old Sejal Pundir is among them. Will you decide your vote on the basis of who you see on the poster, or will it be on the basis of what a political party is offering to you?
जैसे हम बेसिकली फर्स्ट टाइम वोटर्स है, वी डोंट नो मच अबाउट द पॉलिटिक्स, तो जो उनका मैनिफेस्टो होता है, जो उनका प्रचार का वो होता है कि वो हमें ये पॉइंट्स देंगे, तो वो हम बेसिकली हमारे थिंकिंग उस तरफ जाएगी कि हमारे बारे में सोच रहे हैं, हमारे बारे में कर रहे हैं, तो हम बेसिकली उसको देख के ही वोट देंगे.
व्हाट इज एन इशू दैट रियली डिस्टर्ब्स यू?
सी थर्ड ईयर स्टूडेंट है, मतलब हम कॉलेज से बाहर जा रहे हैं, अब हम रियल लाइफ में एंटर करेंगे, तो सबसे पहला हमारा होता है कि हम जॉब पे फोकस करना है. उसके लिए हमें कोटा का बहुत बड़ा इशू है. जैसे मान लो अब हमें BSc स्टूडेंट हूँ मैं, तो मुझे MSc के लिए अब एडमिशन चाहिए, तो HPU में अगर मैं सीख करूंगी तो उधर सिर्फ 19 सीट्स है जनरल कोटा के लिए, और HPU के अंदर कितने सारे बच्चे, तो उसके लिए कंपटीशन बहुत बढ़ जाता है. मान लो कोई बच्चा नीडी है और वो गवर्नमेंट ही अफोर्ड कर सकता है, वो प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट में नहीं जा सकता. ये कोटा हमेशा मतलब हटना चाहिए, या तो ऐसा होना चाहिए कि सबको बराबर हक मिले.
स्टूडेंट्स को क्या चाहिए, यूथ को क्या चाहिए? फॉर यंग गर्ल्स सच एज यू जो फर्स्ट टाइम वोटर्स हैं, आपके लिए क्या प्रायोरिटी है? सेफ्टी सिक्योरिटी क्या कंसर्न है?
सेफ्टी सिक्योरिटी ये है कि हम जैसे हमारे रात को बाहर निकलना है, ये सब चीज़ें हम नहीं रह सकते. अब यहाँ पे हम कॉलेज में हैं तो हमारे को पता है हम यहाँ पे सेफ फील कर रहे हैं. बाहर जाना होता है मैम, जो भी आजकल केसेस होते हैं मैम, उसके बारे में भी गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं करती है मैम, वो कहीं ना कहीं दब भी जाते हैं मैम केसेस. तो होना चाहिए कि इन चीज़ों के बारे में बोलें.
किसके बारे में आप बताएंगे?
मैम जैसे अभी हमने देखा था उत्तराखंड में जो केस हुआ था मैम, तो मैम उसमें सबको पता था कि एक जो है वो BJP का जो नेता था मैम, उसका ही बेटा जो था वो इन्वॉल्व था इस चीज में, बट मैम फिर उस चीज के बारे में कुछ किया नहीं गया मैम.
एंड व्हाट अबाउट फेस? हु इज वन लीडर हु इंस्पायर्स यू, जिसपे आपको कॉन्फिडेंस है कि दैट पर्सन विल डिलीवर फॉर यू?
नरेंद्र मोदी, बिकॉज उन्होंने जैसे अभी वो जो सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक्स किए थे, वो मतलब हर इंडियन को कहीं ना कहीं छुआ है कि चलो इन्होंने हमारे देश के लिए कुछ तो करा है. बहुत बड़ा स्टेप होता है ये जब कांग्रेस थी तब भी बहुत टेररिस्ट अटैक होते थे हमारे यहाँ, पर जब वो हुआ था पुलवामा अटैक और उन्होंने सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक करवाई थी, तो मतलब वो एक जो सॉफ्ट कॉर्नर होता है देश के लिए, वो हमेशा वो स्ट्राइक रहता है. तो नरेंद्र मोदी.
मैम मैं शिमला की बात करूँगी. शिमला में मुझे लगता है टिकेंद्र सिंह पंवर जो शिमला अर्बन से विधानसभा सीट के लिए उठे हैं मैम, मुझे लगता है कि उनकी जो उनके मैनिफेस्टो में है, क्योंकि प्रचार चले थे, हमने उनके मैनिफेस्टो पढ़ी, तो मैम वो जो उनके मैनिफेस्टो में लिखा है वो है हेल्थ, एजुकेशन और एम्प्लॉयमेंट.
व्हाट इज द कन्वर्सेशन दैट यू हैव एट होम? घर पे किस तरह की बातें होती हैं पॉलिटिक्स से रिलेटेड?
मैम सबका अपना ओपिनियन होता है, तो घर वाले किसी और ओपिनियन का है तो हम किसी और ओपिनियन का है, तो मैम वो ऐसे होता है कि नहीं हमारे लीडर्स के साथ सेंटिमेंट्स जुड़े कहीं ना कहीं, और मैम हम लोग सोचते हैं कि हमें उस लीडर को चुनना है जो हमारे लिए काम करेगा, जो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स के वेलफेयर के लिए बात करेगा.
आई वॉन्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड द इशू ऑफ employment. How much of that is a concern for all of you?
हम जैसे आउटगोइंग स्टूडेंट्स है, पहले बोला जॉब सबसे बड़ा इशू होता है. अब देखो जॉब्स, अब इतने सारे हमारी पॉपुलेशन है, पॉपुलेशन को तो अब गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकती है, वो तो एक मतलब ह्यूमन में भी होना चाहिए कि हमें अपने देश के लिए कुछ करना है. तो उसके लिए वो गवर्नमेंट क्या कर सकती है कि जैसे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की एक जो वेव आई है हमारी कंट्री में, बहुत वेव आई है, जैसे एक शार्क टैंक है, वो कितना पॉपुलर हुआ है बिकॉज ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप ओनली. तो कॉलेज को इसके लिए इनिशिएटिव लेना चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट को इनिशिएटिव लेना चाहिए कि वो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को प्रमोट करे और हमें बताए कि कैसे, जैसे अभी उन्होंने फंडिंग भी चलाई कि हम स्टार्टअप्स के लिए फंडिंग देंगे, तो वो हमें एक जब वे भी दे सकते हैं कि कैसे आपको स्टार्टअप्स शुरू करना चाहिए, गाइडलाइन फॉलो करनी चाहिए. जो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप इज द मोस्ट बिग फैक्टर जो जिस पे ध्यान देना चाहिए.
Swing in the House races to their favor. that has not materialized. And I think a big part of the reason is that while the issues of inflation are on people's minds and perceptions of rising crime, the candidates Republicans put forward at Donald Trump's request in many cases, election-denying candidates, seemed simply too extreme. And so the argument that democracy was itself on the ballot does seem to have resonated. It's always the economy stupid, but this year it's the extremism stupid.
I just want to go back to a point that you made that historically, midterm elections have always been sort of against the incumbent president in the White House, whichever party he or she may belong to, Let's go back in time. In 1994, when Bill Clinton lost his first midterms, the Democrats lost something like 53 House seats. Obama, after the historic election in 2008, in 2010 in the Tea Party election, he lost 63 House seats. Biden's losses in comparison, at best, would be in the range of 30 or so. Again, what may this mean for the remainder of his term? Does this potentially give him encouraging signs, if you will, to consider a 2024 rerun?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important to keep in mind that while, as you say, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama suffered what Obama called a shellacking in their midterm elections, they both went on to win re-election handily. And that's, of course, good news if you're in the Biden White House today. Now, there are additional factors that Biden has to take into account, questions about his age, but the economy and the other things that had been stacking up against him. People forget that in terms of his first-term legislative record, he can be called a consequential president. There was actually a lot of bipartisan legislation that passed. Now, it didn't have the impact that many folks hoped in terms of the middle class and moderates in the economy, but Republicans didn't put forward a compelling counter message either in terms of how they'd solve those problems. You asked what's the likely outcome and how it will impact the rest of the Biden presidency. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that Republicans take the House, but by a narrow margin, and Democrats narrowly keep the Senate. Well, what that means is the House will actually be more extreme because the House of Representatives, the extremist candidates who survive this midterm election, will have more influence because Republicans will need to have every vote to pass legislation. And so that's the danger. That's the nightmare scenario that people like Kevin McCarthy are facing. He had planned to announce a quick leadership vote and expected a larger margin. Doesn't look like he's going to have that. If Democrats keep the Senate, you'll have a balance between the two chambers. But if you have Republican narrowly controlling the Senate and the House, it will be full opposition. It won't be as full-throated, and maybe there'll be a prayer of some bipartisan legislation, but that's really a recipe for gridlock, unfortunately, as opposed to reasoning together, because so much of the common ground in politics has evaporated. Although this election should remind people the common ground still does exist.
I want to talk a little bit about, these extremist candidates that you talked about, election deniers among them. According to the Washington Post, more than 200 Republican candidates who were running in these midterms have denied the legitimacy of the 2020 vote, the presidential election which Joe Biden won. Many of these candidates have been endorsed by Donald Trump. What may this mean for not just the divided politics of America, but more importantly, the faith that American people have in its democratic institutions?
It's been a very dangerous moment because election denialism is not like other forms of extremism we've faced. It's a full-throated lie created out of whole cloth by Donald Trump to preserve his ego because he lost the last election. But he couldn't accept it, and neither could his hardcore support.
Good evening and welcome to a special telecast of the Hindustan Times Leadership Summit. I have with me then External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar. This is a very interesting time, but as the Minister was telling me, all times are interesting and every year is interesting in its own way. I want to start, Minister, with a slightly macro question. Around 5 years back, there was a sense that there was a stable global order, both geopolitically and economically. Globalization seemed to be the model that would work. And things seemed settled. But over the last 5 years, over the last decade really, but increasingly so over the last 5 years, we've had many shocks to the system. COVID, of course, is one shock to the system. What's happening with the climate crisis is another shock to the system. Geopolitical conflicts have always been there, but they are now causing untold havoc when it comes to supply chains and the economic impacts that they play out. And things suddenly look a lot more unsettled. How do you see the future going forward, the medium-term to long-term future going forward? Are we in for a period of churn, or will things settle down again, or will we find a new equilibrium?
Well, first of all, let me say it's a great pleasure to join you today. And through you, I send my good wishes to all the people who are watching the summit and reading your newspaper. I think it's a good note to start the conversation, because I would actually say probably from about 2008, and I use 2008, the global financial crisis, as the inflection point, you can say. I use that to actually underline that the globalization model has been more and more challenged. You had political manifestations of that. I think Brexit was one manifestation. Election of Donald Trump was a manifestation. What you had economic manifestations which people were in denial about. I think there was a kind of a globalization mantra which a lot of people, including in our country, bought into without too much application of mind and too much thinking of our own interests out there. And in a sense, the COVID brought out into the open a lot of the problems which till then had been kept firmly under the carpet. So we actually saw that supply chains were very fragile, that production was actually overly concentrated, that people were dependent on limited geographies. And by the way, a lot of this was being politically leveraged as well. So it wasn't just, I'm not talking purely from a economic efficiency viewpoint. I'm even reminding you how in the last 10 to 20 years, actually the globalization was being politically utilized to actually for national advantage and to shape global politics. So you had all of this one after another building up. I think the Ukraine conflict has added to the stress factors. My sense is there are some long-standing issues. Fragility can be enhanced by terrorist actions. This year, you've seen how actually climate change is affecting the global economy.
Well, what does it mean for policy? What does it mean for foreign policy specifically? And you mentioned leadership. What does it mean for the country's approach to various factors? Because at the end of the day, we have a population of 1.3 billion and there are challenges. There are huge challenges. Food is a challenge. I mean, we are an extremely food secure nation, but something like the climate crisis could actually jeopardize that too. Economic factors that are happening around the world do have a cascading effect on what is happening in our country. So how do you create your own policy? How do you draft your policy? What are the inputs that go into it?
So there is today hedging, de-risking, redundancy, a kind of a self-reliance going on. So to my mind, when people, today look at the government's goal of an Atmanirbhar Bharat, we should not think of it